What is up, guys? Welcome back to the Meaning of Podcast, your podcast where we talk about your favorite directors and the deeper meaning within their films. This is our very special 2023 season finale, making it with our top 10 list of 2022. It is late, but we did it. We are back making our top 10 list. We might be the latest top 10 list of anyone you know, but we are still doing it. I'm so excited because I am here with both RB3 and Sabrina in the house. How are you guys feeling today?
Feeling good. Happy to be here.
So what we're going to do on this episode is we're going to talk about, obviously, our top 10 films of 2022. The way we're going to do it is we're going to go 10 through 6 from each one of us, and then we're going to go 5 to 2 and eventually get to our number 1. But first things first, we're going to get to 10 through 6 and then talk about the films that we might have in common, films that we may disagree on. But either way, get those 5 out of the way first and make sure we get to discuss it. It has been a very, very interesting year for film in 2022. I have openly said, and I will openly admit, that I have not seen a lot of movies this year, kind of on purpose. I've kind of skipped a few that really haven't caught my eye, whereas before I would kind of force myself to go watch these movies. Now I'm kind of picking and choosing the ones I really want to go see. But either way, I want to start off with my 10 through 6. So here are my top 10 films of 2022, starting with 10 through 6. At number 10, I have Netflix's animated film, Intergalactic. At number 9, I have Netflix's other film, Emily the Criminal, starring Aubrey Plaza. At number 8, I have another Netflix one called Glass Onion, starring Daniel Craig and Rian Johnson. At number 7, I have The Woman King. At number 6, I have Decision to Leave. RB3, what is your 10 through 6?
Well, yeah, I mean, we're kicking off with the same number 10, it looks like. Also, Netflix film Intergalactic, Kid Cudi, Kenya Barris, really fun, beautiful animated film right there. Number 9 is another one that we have in common, Decision to Leave, the new film from Chan-wook. My number 8 is The Woman King as well, starring Viola Davis, directed by Gina Prince Bythewood. My number 7 is Breaking, starring John Boyega, really beautiful, emotional tale about veteran. And number 6 is Barbarian. That's the horror film that came out a little bit earlier this year. So those are my 6 to 10.
Hell yeah. Barbarian making the list. My 10 through, what are we doing, 10 through 6?
10 through 6.
10 through 6. Number 10, I have Wakanda Forever. Number 9, I have X. Number 8, I have RB3's favorite film of all time, Tar. I have Nope at number 7, and then Pearl at number 6.
Wow. I feel like yours is by far the most different, Sabrina, specifically with certain movies in there that I don't think I haven't seen X, full disclosure. You also mentioned Tar, which I haven't seen. And then what was your number 6?
Pearl,
another one that I haven't seen. So talk to me about those movies, the X and Pearl movies, because they're the same creator, right?
Yeah, so T West or Ty West. With these films, first of all, I think after seeing X in theaters, the second it ended on the trailer for Pearl, I could not have been more hyped. And of course, spoiler alert, Pearl ends with the trailer for Maxine, which is coming out soon. But the fact that he was able to do these 2 films that are so unique, but so intertwined at the same time, back to back, is just insane to me. I feel like the dichotomy between Pearl and Maxine in X is really expanded upon in Pearl, and you understand so much more of the different facets of what it's like to be super repressed as a woman that's like exploring her sexuality, or is, for lack of a better word, like super horny in a different time period where that is not okay and that's not happening. And I mean, they are not great people. Pearl is an absolutely terrible person. This is in no way a defense of that, but it's that exploration that I find to be fascinating.
Interesting. And they both have those similar themes crossing between each movie?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. That's why I'm excited to see Maxine and to see how her character is introduced in that different light. Because, yeah, again, spoiler alert.
The one I've seen most of is Mia Goth being praise for her performance. And then the one scene that became viral on TikTok and on Twitter, which is Emma Stone, Emma Star, which is where she's saying I'm a star over and over again, which I actually kind of feel bad for her in that moment. I don't know. It's out of context. I haven't seen the movie, but it kind of makes you feel bad.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I think that's the thing that's interesting about it is I think a good villain character, especially if your villain is your protagonist, again, I mean, like we're talking Tar, but with something like that, they have to have redeemable qualities where we can understand where they're coming from. I don't agree with anything that she's doing or her way of going about things at all. But it is that idea of repression, especially at a time like I think Pearl takes place in like the 1930s or 40s or something like that. And then X is in the 70s. And it shows that kind of shift that happens, but how much at the same time, even though women do have that sexual freedom jumping over from that decade to then the 1970s, at the same time, like at what point are you exploited? And when is it your choice, or it just seems like something that you kind of have to do to make your way in the world? So I know I'm looking into these films so deeply, but I think having the choice of Mia Goth playing both characters literally shows that like they're two sides of the same coin.
Interesting. And it's interesting too.
Oh, sorry. I was going to say Scorsese agrees with you. He said Ty West is one of the generational filmmakers of this year.
Did he actually?
Yeah. Scorsese.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
RB3, you had a Tar review on our channel. I saw that review and was blown away. I was like, damn, what is this movie? It's apparently considered to be one of the best movies of the year when it comes to critical reception and when it comes to award praise. Sabrina, what did you like about it?
I think the thing about Tar with me, and I know we've actually discussed this on previous episodes when we're talking about the idea of the theater and older art forms kind of being more elitist. I think they really showed that in a film like Tar. Of course, we're talking about classical music. It's like, how can you get any more elitist than this? This is something that has existed for so damn long and is completely stuck in its own ways. And it is super pretentious. And I think the film is what like Lydia Tar is. It's suspenseful, it's atmospheric. I think from the cinematography to the sound design, I think it is a really great technical feat just in general. And of course, Cate Blanchett could do no wrong in my eyes. She's not my personal Oscar winner for this year, but she is damn well deserving of that nomination.
RB3, we had a few movies in common. I know we had the same number 10, which I thought was kind of funny. Speaking of, he's in Kid Cudi's in one of those Ty West movies, right?
X, yeah.
He's in X. Shout out Kid Cudi. He's in 2 movies.
He's been having a stellar year. I mean, he should have been in 3 movies because House Party should have came out last year. But he now it just came out, which he was also amazing in. If you haven't seen House Party yet.
So we both had The Woman King. We both had Decision to Leave. We both had what else do we have? Intergalactic. So those are 3 that we have in common. Give me your other ones besides those 3.
I also had my number 10 was Intergalactic. Number 9 was Decision to Leave. I personally felt like really good Hitchcock homage. Second, really, I feel like the second major movie, like in my list, that had not on my list, but in my like list / honorable mentions that had a lot of Hitchcock references. I personally love Kimmy this year, but that's more in the honorable mention section. But Decision to Leave. The Woman King was number 8, and then number 7 was Breaking, which was directed by Abby Demoris Corbin, and this was starring John Boyega. He's playing like a veteran who's going through a psychological breakdown and robbing a bank. It's a truly, truly heartbreaking movie, emotionally gut-wrenching. I think is John Boyega's best performance all around, and it really goes to show you, the discredit of like veterans and veterans groups and things of that nature. It's Michael K. Williams' last performance ever too, so that also gives it a little bit of a special mark on it too. Originally, Jonathan Majors was supposed to play the main character, but he actually got swept away at the very last second for a Marvel movie. So if you actually watch Breaking, they actually have a little like dig. They have a little X-Men joke, a little X-Men dig, and one part of the script. So I feel like that was like the producer's way of like kind of getting back towards that. But yeah, that was my number 7, and then my number 6 was Barbarian. This is the horror movie directed by Zach Kreger. This literally came out on a $4 million budget, made $45 million. domestically. And I think it's a horror film that's a crowd pleaser, but that's also funny, but that plays with a lot of different tones and could have easily just gone messy and could have just been like one thing, but it was decisively not just one thing. It found a unique way to tell the story and a unique way to pace out the story to like you kept being on the edge while still having fun with it. So yeah, and there was also another layer of like self-referential Hollywood in Barbarian too, without spoiling too much. So I really appreciated this movie.
This was quite a year for horror, huh? In 2022, there's been a lot of horror movies on your list, Sabrina, on your list, RB3. There might be one or two on mine, but either way, quite a year for horror. I feel like horror, the idea of elevated horror, is becoming less and less like a separate thing, right? It's separate genre, and it's in the conversation as far as becoming a more and more beyond an elevated or if that's possible, where like maybe the following years we might get a retrospective analysis on Lupita Nyong'o's performance in Us, Toni Collette's performance in Hereditary, on, in my opinion, Florence Pugh's performance in Midsommar, and then obviously Mia Goth in her films. But either way, shout out to horror in 2022. I feel like it really stood out this year.
Yeah, I mean, on that, with something like Barbarian, which I am honestly upset that I forgot to put it on my list. I was going through all the movies that I've seen, but of course, a few fall through the cracks. I feel like that honestly could have taken the number 10 spot for me. But yeah, even with that, like it's that subgenre of horror, whereas X is like definitely just like straight up Grindhouse, Texas Chainsaw Massacre mixed with like a few other different ideas. And of course, those very complicated themes, which kind of tend to then, bring it into that elevated horror conversation. Barbarian is such a good horror comedy. I have never been so terrified and laughing like at the same time. Like it felt wrong, but it made so much sense. With that one, shout out to the special character that shows up halfway through the film because damn.
Yeah, I mean, shout out if again, I don't want to spoil too much, but I think they also introduced, there's a moment that gets back to like an 80s kind of flashback in Barbarian, like almost halfway through the movie, and it's shot with this like very stylistic, like short lens, like kind of way of the camera staying pretty far from the stuff. It was like such a really creepy way to introduce the subject and really make it scary and stylistic, but without actually showing that much gore or horror. And that's also what I appreciate it too. It doesn't like, it's not like an over the top horror movie. It was like really smartly, like skillfully done. And you could tell that it was, a passion project. So, but I was going to ask you, Andres, so I know why I like Intergalactic. I love Kid Cudi. I love animated films. Kenya Barris is obviously a creator I like, but what got you on the Intergalactic wave?
Bro, we're playing this card right now.
I'm curious. I didn't expect that.
I've been on the Cudi train since I think before you were born, bro. It's like 2006, 2000. I don't know where were you in 2006 or 7? Bro?
I was listening to Cudi in 2006
when he was doing the mixtapes and all that. You remember those?
Yeah.
Yeah, he used to release mixtapes and singles before he did Man on the Moon, like way before he did Man on the Moon, like in 06, 07. And then 08, obviously. But I love Cudi, bro. I've loved Cudi for years, and I definitely wanted to check out this movie. I also love, and I think I've said this to you guys a few times, and I think y'all ignore me, but I think she's a treasure. I think Jessica Williams is a treasure. And I've loved her, obviously, since her time on The Daily Show. But even after that, I've always said I felt like she's one of the best voices that we have of this generation, my generation, because that's mainly what she's about. But I love Jessica Williams. So when I found out about this film, I've always been planning to see it. I was just late on it. I just pushed everything to December and early January. But I was always meaning to see Intergalactic. And then obviously finding out that it's a Cudi musical about a modern romance inside of New York City, I was just like, dude, I loved it.
By the way, I feel like Timothy Chalamet, he just can't stay off of our list anymore.
Yeah, Timothy Chalamet, bro.
Found a way to sneak in on both of our lists with Intergalactic. That's crazy. I don't know how that happened, but even on the down year, he still found a way to get on our top 10 list. Sorry, I was gonna say.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say real quick too. The Woman King
The Woman
didn't get
King.
any Oscar nominations.
Yeah.
To me, it's one of my favorites of the year, and I think it definitely should have gotten a lot more love. I think to me, I personally, you know, as much as I love like the first Black Panther, and as much as I love a lot of. As much as I love the first Black Panther, the action wasn't like necessarily like the most war centric that I thought it could be. But I feel like what they did in the Woman King was like such a good representation of like what an actual war movie like that kind of vibe could look for. What I thought was gonna get in the first Black Panther movie, which I'm still glad what we got. But also too, Viola Davis' performance was all around great. Lashana Lynch as well.
Lashana Lynch
Was amazing in that
She
movie.
was the best part. Yeah.
He was the best part. And then I mean all of the performances were just all around like were just all around next level. So shout out to Gina Prince Bythewood again. She watched one of our videos way back when. I don't know if she's still watching.
That's
now,
right, she did.
Yeah. Shout out. If she's still watching, you know, the Woman
That's
King.
the best. That's the best thing we've done, bro. We've got a few, right? We've got we got her, we got Gina. Who else did we get? We got the director of the half of it. She gave us a quick shout out.
She did. That's right. That's right.
We had JJ Bayona.
He liked the tweet.
He liked the tweet. I'll take it. I'll take it as a victory.
I feel like he watched it.
I feel like he watched it. He probably did.
Yeah.
What I feel like that's it, but still, I feel like Gina might be the best one.
Judd Apatow commented on Kay's post when he clipped out a clip from his episode. So we'll take it. I don't think it was the whole episode just to clip that Kay posted, but yeah.
But either way, I feel like Gina to me is still that's the biggest one where she gave you a shout out.
Yeah, that was dope.
I'll take credit.
Yeah.
But shout out to the Woman King. I loved it. I thought it was great. I feel like it was a perfect epic movie, epic film. Lashana Lynch just stole the film for me. She was incredible. So much personality, so much charisma and power in presence on screen, as well as another shout out to Finn, my boy John Boyega, being the king. I feel like he had so many iconic lines in that movie. And he would just like be Did you see The Woman King, Sabrina?
No, I haven't. I was just going to say, I haven't seen The Woman King or Decision to Leave. Those are two on the top of my list up next.
But he would come out in these robes and he had like 20 wives. And he'd be like, let me go talk to my wives. And he would have his African accent. I can't do an African accent. And he would just like sit in a council of like beautiful women.
Yeah. And he'd be talking to Viola Davis. He's like, I want you to rule the kingdom. He's like, I don't want to marry you. You have like 20 wives. And he's like, no, I don't want you to marry me, duh. Like, nah, it's a dope movie, man. I just think
he had a blast doing that movie. Like he was so insane in that movie. I loved it. I absolutely.
That makes me happy because like he deserves it. Like he is such a phenomenal actor. I'm excited to see him in more things.
He was in two of yours. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah,
Breaking. That's exactly what I was gonna say.
Yeah, no, literally, and I do think like Breaking is such a good performance. It went so underseen and didn't have a lot of marketing, but I will say they have I think Brittany did a great interview with the director and the writer of this movie on Geeks of Color's YouTube channel. So be sure to check that out if y'all haven't seen those interviews, because they also break down a lot of the deeper themes and stuff behind the Breaking film.
So let's get to our number 5. So what we're going to do from number 5 is we're all going to go around the circle with our number 5s. And I'll start off with my number 5, which is probably the most controversial one of my entire list. Already starting off with the controversy, because at my number 5, I have a beautiful film that everyone loves, that everyone might have at their number 1, but I have my number 5, and I'm sorry, but I'm gonna be honest, I'm gonna be real. And that's Everything Everywhere All at Once is at my number 5, a movie that I really, really, really loved, really enjoyed, and that's why it made my top 5. Michelle Yeoh is incredible. Stephanie Hsu, to me, I said it in our review, but I really do feel like she elevated that film. She stole that film with the amount that she had to carry when it comes to the personalities, when it comes to the emotional burden she had, the pressure of her parents, the relationships that weren't approved by her family, all that kind of cultural aspect as well. Great film, really unique, and that is why it's at my number 5. RB3, what's your number 5?
Wow, that's deep. I mean, my number 5 is something you touched on, Andres, and I knew we were going to talk about it later. Glass Onion, a Knives Out mystery. This is such a fun movie. You know, we're the Ryan Johnson fan club around here in First Cut, so definitely fun. I think this was stuff. I love the fact that it was like self-referential to like celebrity culture. Like they had the Jeremy Renner hot sauce, and they had like
Jared
you
Leto.
know Jared
Jared Leto
Leto,
kombucha.
yeah, kombucha, yeah, just all these like little celebrity references that are just funny. All the acting was great. Edward Norton, even like my mom wasn't even like really into the movie. Like I put it on Netflix at home, but then when Edward Norton was starting to go on his little like distorters or disruptors monologue, even she like looked up and was like, "Oh, who is that? I haven't seen him in a minute." Like, so I think that's really it's a testament to how well directed everybody was, and how well written the movie is. And yeah, we're gonna talk about Glass Onion, I'm sure, later on. So that's my number 5.
Sabrina.
My number 5 is Cha Cha Real Smooth, directed and written by Cooper Raiff. I believe it's on like Hulu or something. So if you haven't seen it, highly recommend. Of course, this is a very like small, quiet, kind of almost like adult coming of age story. Cooper Raiff is my age, which when I see somebody my age accomplish something like this, I'm like, damn, now I have to get up and like go do something. But I know that this is his second film. He had like Shithouse like a year and a half ago or 2 years ago, and now he has like another upcoming film about like this like crazy ass hockey team. But with this one, I think genuinely the performances are so, so special in this film. I think from his, even going from a film like Shithouse to this, I feel like he's playing almost like a different version of himself, but it works so, so well. Like it's not something that like takes you out of the film at all. Kind of like almost like when I saw Bros with Billy Eichner, like I'm like, that's just Billy Eichner, but it could kind of work. But I think even with something like Cooper Raiff, it just feels very authentic to him. And I think that's what makes this particular thing special. And I think Dakota Johnson has probably the best performance of her entire career in this film with him. It is so sweet, so heartwarming, heartbreaking, and honestly, extremely relatable for any single person who's been in their early 20s.
Yeah, this is the one that came out on Sundance of last year, right? And
Yes.
I believe it's about a homie doing bar mitzvahs and he
It's a
falls in love with Dakota Johnson. Am I tripping?
yes. So yeah, that's
Okay.
kind of like the easy way of saying it. It's almost like he's at this in between point of his life, and then he finds out like, oh, I make people have a lot of fun at parties because he gets invited to a bar mitzvah, and everyone's having a really good time. So he's like, oh, I could get paid for this. So then he starts getting paid to be like the DJ and just dealing with a bunch of other stuff that like life throws at him throughout the journey of finding himself too.
Dang, he was born in 97, bro. That's
I
crazy.
know. That's what I'm saying.
That's too much, man. That's too much. Shout out to Dakota Johnson, Madam Web.
Yeah.
That is my Madam Web. Everyone is so hyped for that movie. I'm just playing. But either way, Dakota Johnson is actually a really good actress. So shout out to her. But I feel like for the most part, all our choices are pretty good. I'm not sure if Glass Onion's going to come up again. So I don't know if we should
Well,
talk about it.
if it doesn't come up again, okay. Well, if it doesn't come up again, I do just want to shout out Janelle Monáe, and I just want to shout out Poker Face, the new Peacock show. I am loving,
Yes.
Oh, yeah,
loving this
yeah.
series. Starring Natasha Leone.
Yeah.
Yeah, she is literally such
Ryan
a
Johnson,
good.
bro.
Yeah, Ryan Johnson's back at it, man. He doesn't know how to miss, and
Back
he
to
just
back.
keeps capping them at the dome. So I think it's I just think he's and we've done multiple reviews of it on the channel and stuff. So
There's been a lot of films I feel like done on capitalism, on ultra wealthy, on rich people. It's interesting because I chose a film earlier on, which was my number 9. I don't know if I said too much about it, which was Emily the Criminal, which is about Aubrey Plaza's character who basically has done one crime in her life but can't get a job, can't get anywhere in life, so she's kind of stuck in the system that capitalism has built. And it's a very, very LA film. It's one of the most LA films I've ever seen as someone who's lived in LA for like 8 years, where it's like you get a shitty job, you try to get a job at a company that's more inside of your field, you try and fail, you have to be an assistant, you pass out coffees to people without getting paid, and then you do all these other jobs while meeting people from different backgrounds and different cultures. It's very interesting and unique. I recommend it. It's a super short movie that you can watch on Netflix. So shout out to that one and Glass Onion. Obviously, I was kind of going off that because Glass Onion, to me, I wrote about it on Geeks of Color. You can check out my review on there. But I talk about how it's also a kind of teardown of the capitalistic structures, the ultra wealthy, the billionaires, and kind of the idea of what they are versus what they actually are. And it was so timely watching this movie in theaters. I don't know if you guys saw it in theaters like I did. I saw it like I think right when it came out, and seeing it in theaters right when it was like 2 weeks after Elon bought Twitter or like a
Yep.
week. And I was just like, yo, this is the Elon movie. It was
Yeah.
so timely, man. I swear that's a great movie. I put it at my number 8, I believe.
Yeah.
So, shout
It's
out
I
to
just
that one.
know.
I was just gonna say, it's just like we said in our review. It's like the first Knives Out was about old money, and this new one is about new money.
Yeah,
So it's
yeah,
like
yeah.
the very distinct difference there.
Yeah,
And that's
absolutely.
it's like Ryan Johnson can see the future too. He's like, hey, this is gonna be it also is kind of sad that I feel like it would be a timely topic almost at any given time. There's always going to be someone coming into the news that, is very reminiscent of Edward Norton's character in that film. But it's funny that you mentioned that, because even with something like The Menu, Triangle of Sadness, of course, Glass
Mhm.
Onion, even White Lotus, I know deals with that a little bit too here and there. We saw a lot of those like themes throughout this year.
And I feel like that's going to be the biggest theme, if I'm being real, coming up in future content. There is Succession, obviously, because that show is coming out again. RB3 and I, we freaking love that show. So Succession's new season. I believe the Noah Hawley Alien show is also about basically that company that Alien is based on. It's just about the company, and it's just about them being evil and stepping on poor people. And it's literally barely about aliens, but that's kind of what Aliens was about anyways, or Alien, the first movie was. So I feel like that theme is going to keep coming up and up and up because of the world we're living in. This is literally the world we live in now, and the more people kind of realize, and the more they open their eyes, the more they see that, wait a minute, this is insane. So shout out to the creators who are doing it. Hopefully it actually does something and it gets somewhere, but so far we can at least enjoy it for what it is. But let's get to our top 4. I'm starting with my number 4. My number 4 film is another foreign film. I have quite a few foreign films on my list, but this is Argentina 1985, a film that I saw on Prime. Shout out to RB3 for Prime. And I love this movie. Obviously, I saw it in Spanish. I got to enjoy it in Spanish. A really interesting film about South American politics on a very specific angle, which is the Argentinian angle, which is something that a lot of people know a little bit about Argentinian history because of their connection to World War II, because of, if you've seen X-Men First Class, you see that starts in Argentina. Back during that time, the 50s in Argentina was very lenient towards the Nazis. So they had a very difficult time with a militaristic government, and the people who were trying to topple that on a political angle and on a justice angle was super difficult, because they had a civil war and an internal war that kind of led to a new government. And what they wanted to do was prosecute the biggest criminals inside the military, which were torturers, rapists, basically your military monsters. And that's what essentially the movie's all about. It's about opening a new chapter into democracy in Argentina and moving away from a military dictatorship. So I really enjoyed it, and I highly recommend it. RB3.
Wow.
Yeah, that's dope. I mean, yeah, we got to talk more about that. I mean, I haven't seen that movie, so I love to dig into that. I also have a foreign film as my number 4 too, though. Much different tone and direction, though. This is the most expensive Indian film ever made to date, and you can see and feel every dollar on screen. That's what I'm talking about. RRR. This is using music, action, comedy, and just overall craziness. It tells the story of like independence, liberation, overcoming oppression, but from like the British government, while also at the same time being invigorating and just like playing into like that not childish, but almost like that dream, like nostalgic feeling of like cinema that I feel like I had as a child, like the stuff that makes me almost like love film, like everything from the cinematography, the sweeping camera movements, the action and the acting being just a little hair over the top, but like playing into that to the whole settlement. And just yeah, I mean, every scene was breathtaking. If you're invested in if you literally just watch the first 10 minutes of this movie, you're sucked in for like the rest of it. This is one movie that everybody recommended to me earlier in the year, and I just like slept on it until like very, very recently. But I see the hype for RRR. It's worth the hype, and I'm excited to have it like on this list.
Nice. Sabrina.
That's awesome. I gotta check that one out still. My number 4 is The Banshees of Inisherin, directed by Martin McDonagh. I absolutely love this film. From the second I ended it, or the second I started it to when it ended, I was like, I need to watch this again immediately. And I did literally the next day. I think it's of course, it's like a slow watch with something like this. It's very quiet. They're on this like island in Ireland. And I didn't realize it was a period piece for like the longest time, probably like 30 minutes into the film. And then they mentioned like the war. And I was like, oh, this takes place a long time ago. Like, I'm like, I don't know. They look like cozy. Like their outfits aren't super distinctive of a different time. But besides that, I think this is McDonagh's magnum opus, 100% my favorite film that he's ever done. I think the performances all around are absolutely breathtaking. Every single person, Carrie Condon, Barry Keoghan, who when he shows up in a little like film, like he's about to just be like a menace. He is about to just like cause a little bit of chaos here and there, whether it's killing of a sacred deer to this one. I absolutely love to see him on screen because his energy is so unique. But with this, the exploration of life, friendship, so many other things that aren't thrown in your face at all. There are some of the most heartbreaking lines of dialogue I've heard in a film all year, just kind of scattered throughout so casually within this. It's not some earth-shattering moment where everything pauses and somebody says something profound. It's little things here or there. Even Colin Farrell turning to Brendan Gleeson and saying like, you used to be nice, or like, were you never? And he goes on this entire monologue of like, my sister's nice and people remember her. This person's nice, I remember him. Because of course their friendship is crumbling, and Brendan Gleeson is mentioning how he wants to focus on art, that people will remember art, people will remember this, and you live on through all of that. And then Colin Farrell is saying like, at the same time, all of that is true, but it's also the impact that you have on the people around you that allows you to also live a long, fulfilling life. And it's just so heartbreaking and hilarious at the same time. The first 10 minutes of the film, which I don't know, I know RB3's seen it. Have you seen it, Andres?
No.
Without spoiling, but for the first 10 minutes, Colin Farrell is like totally clueless. He's trying to hang out with his friend. His friend keeps like slighting him. He's like, what the hell is going on? Just the little things that Colin Farrell does with his face, the way his eyebrows are moving in this ridiculous way that I feel like most of us can't even do. It is just so perfect for this performance. He is just taking L after L. And yeah, I love it so much.
Interesting. I'm definitely curious to check it out. I know RB3 is no fan of this film.
Yeah, I actually am not. But I mean, but I'm glad you are, Sabrina. I'm happy for you. I mean, this is funny because like I really do love Martin McDonagh's like work a lot. You know what I mean? Like, and Bruges is one of my favorites. Seven Psychopaths is literally on my sacred wall of Blu-rays right here. And Three Billboards, even though it got the white people saying the N-word, I actually really love that movie too. That to me is the one I consider the magnum opus of him personally, because but I mean, just because again, but what you're saying is probably more of what he might consider his magnum opus, because it's Ireland, it's like dealing in period pieces. I guess, I don't know, maybe I'm not Irish, maybe I don't speak my language, or maybe I'm just like, I don't know, it just wasn't my personal cup of tea. But I can see why like, I think like, I mean, it is a funny watch, like when they get to certain parts where certain things are burning down, and like, just it does get to a funny point. I think it went a little bit over my head maybe, but I'm really glad that you like it, Sabrina.
No, I love that, honestly, because that's the same thing. I can totally see, and I put off watching this for a really long time. I am shocked that this was a film that I loved as much as I did, because I really just thought it was going to be like slow, even though it was McDonagh, and I know that's not like necessarily his thing. all the marketing, not to say it was bad at all or anything like that, I just feel like it didn't convey how much of a good time it was going to be, at least for myself.
Yeah, it's interesting because there's a lot of films. Again, I've already talked about awards seasons, awards contention. This is definitely at the top, along with Tar, because you mentioned Tar beforehand. There's a couple that we might have mentioned that that I feel like could have been in there, should have been in there. I know RRR has been getting a lot of love. I haven't seen it, but they have been mentioned for awards and stuff like that. But when it comes to Banshees, it's interesting because Martin is he's low key kind of beloved in my opinion by the Academy.
Yeah.
The amount of love the Three Billboards got, you know, my opinions on that
Oh,
movie,
yeah.
RB3.
Yeah, you don't like Three Billboards at all.
I was like,
Damn.
why is this movie getting so much love?
Which I love it. You talked me out of not seeing that movie for months, and I was like, nah, I'm not gonna see this after this movie. And literally, I saw it, and I'm like literally weeping out there. I'm like, God damn, man, what the freak? But yeah, it's no, I feel you though. I feel you. He is definitely beloved. And I think that's why, you know, I think that's
Banshees is
why
getting love.
it's getting the love. And I think it also it's like you said, Sabrina, I think it's so technically well done too. Like it's setting that period piece, all the acting, you know, whereas I think you could look at something like Three Billboards and say, oh, it's a great movie, but this character didn't work for me or that character didn't work for me. Or, you know, you could look at Seven Psychopaths and say it's a little scattered shot and all over the place. I think this is the most like straightforward and most like narrative, like satisfying of his movies for sure. And I think that's why also too it's like getting a lot of success. But yeah, you know, everybody got their cup of teas, you know? So
That's it. Like your favorite line now, RB3 is cup of teas.
cup of teas, man. We just all sipping, you know, Spike Lee. He yeah.
Let's get to our number threes. I'll start with my number three because this is gonna be quick because I don't think anyone in the world has seen this movie. It's another foreign film. I gotta stay on brand, bro. I gotta stay on brand with my Japanese anime. Shout out to Inu-Oh, which is a Japanese anime film by director. I'm gonna butcher his name, Masaki Yusasa, who has done quite a few films in the past, but this is done by Science Saru, which is an animation studio that a lot of people, if you watch a lot of anime, are familiar with. And JK Kids or J Kids, which is another company that a lot of people are familiar with. But this is about 14th century Japan, a musician who wants to be a rock star, who meets these friends along the way and this journey about this friendship. It's really cool, original, unique. The animation style is kind of what makes the film, but if you're really, really into animation like I am, you will appreciate it. So that is why it is my number three. RB3, your number three.
My number three. Oh, sorry, I didn't know it was coming to me this fast. Okay, my number three. I got. Whew, you're talking about the most expensive Indian movie of all time. I got to transition over to the most expensive American movie of all time. And that's right. I got to shout out the king of sequels himself. Listen, man, how many times have I said it? There's only one JC in Hollywood. It's not Jesus Christ. It's James Cameron. That's right. I got to shout out my movie Avatar Way of the Water as my number three movie of the year. As Danny Fernandez quoted Billy Zane saying at the premiere, this is a James Cameron wet dream all the way through and through. You know, we got we got elements of the first Avatar, we got elements of Titanic, we got elements of the Abyss, all the water in the world. The fact that it also popularized the whole Dolby Vision, Dolby 3D, making that a lot more like mainstream with the 3D glasses, really brought the roller coaster experience to every cinema across America with, I feel like, an epic, emotionally sweeping, telling story of that involves nature, that involves water, that involves, you know, again, like same things, you know, we talk about in a lot of these movies, you know, fighting against the man, fighting against the oppression. And so yeah, I got my Geeks of Color review on if you want to read more of my thoughts there, more detailed. I also had a great conversation with the visual effects team where they broke down like all of the technical stuff that they did, how much usage of like animatronics, how much technology, like deep learning technology they developed like for the making of this movie. It was just all around to deliver a truly epic movie. Like I feel like this was one of the, in the theaters, like I wish I would have saw RR in theaters because I feel like that would have also given me that same epic sweeping feeling. But in terms of epicness, this was the movie right here for the year.
Before I get to you, Sabrina, I got to be so honest. I completely forgot about Avatar: The Way of Water, RB3. I'm so sorry.
Whoa.
This would 100% be near my top 3 as well. So at least I'm different in the sense that I want to give a shout out to a Japanese anime film that probably no one's going to watch, but maybe you should watch. But shout out to The Way of Water. It probably is also in my top 3 or 4. So that's a good choice, man. I love it. Sabrina, you're number 3.
I am an Avatar hater, but
Yeah.
you know what? That's just me. That's just me.
Even
I
after Way of
respect y'all.
Water? Damn,
Okay,
bro.
so
Way
I
of
haven't
Water?
seen Way of Water.
Okay.
Because honestly, and you know, I can deal with a long film. Like I'm so happy to sit in a theater for as long as like the film is getting me. And I think that's a conversation that I'm gonna have with one of my honorable mentions too. But like sometimes when something's as long as it is, like wrap it up. So I think that's why I just haven't seen it. Isn't it like 3 hours?
It is, yeah.
Yeah. It's a
like,
brisk
I
3
think it's
hours though.
longer.
It's like 3, it's like 3, now it's like 3.
It's like 310, right?
Yeah, it's like 314 or something like
314,
that.
315, yeah.
I think 312, 312, yeah. You have to stay through the whole credits though. I don't stay through the credits. Like as soon as the weekend start playing, I'm out. So
That's too good. Yeah, I think with one like that, because I never really cared for the first film at all, and I have had rewatches of it. I just haven't seen this one, but I will check it out. So I will update you guys eventually when I do see it. We'll see if I'm still an Avatar hater. But for my number 3, I have Timothée Chalamet making the list once again. I have Luca's Bones and All. So second time with him working with Timothée Chalamet. This is a cannibal coming of age road trip romance film dealing with all of these weird kind of like subgenres blended together, but he injects his like unique direction into every single facet of this film to me. I know that this is adapted from a book, so again, similarly to something like Call Me by Your Name, he really does do it justice though. I actually just finished reading the book, so I did see the film first. So it both really fantastic. But in my opinion, the film dives into something deeper. Luca is able to just like unearth so many different things. It doesn't matter if he's dealing with like landscape, which like in this film, the landscape definitely like mirrors, you know, how the people, the characters that we're dealing with in this film, like how they are. It's like very bleak. It's very vast. Like it's empty and it's going through it basically. Like it doesn't look as gorgeous and bountiful as something like Call Me by Your Name. It's almost like the exact opposite. So with this one, I think all of the different elements of horror and romance and everything come together so wonderfully. And I think it's because of his intricate storytelling. And like Taylor Russell and Timothée Chalamet, their chemistry was through the roof. It's like one of those Lady Gaga, Bradley Cooper things where it's like, it is electric. Like you are feeling it off of the screen. And I think even the way Luca highlights the human body in a sensual way that is gross, which I love. You know, I'm a fan of horror. I'm a fan of body horror. Recently saw Infinity Pool, Brandon Cronenberg, David Cronenberg's son film.
oh, yeah.
That one's a different story. That one's a different story, but I do love a good body horror, and this is definitely it. Of course, again, you're dealing with cannibals, but the circumstances of the cannibalism are very interesting. And I think that highlights being an outsider in a world where you feel like you don't belong and you have no place to call home, no people to come back to. And yeah.
Interesting. Very interesting. I haven't seen the film, but damn, man, he hanged out with Army Hammer for a little too long. Decided to make a cannibal movie.
Got to eating.
Yeah, he's like, yo, Timothée Chalamet, Army Hammer, cannibalism. Let's do it without
like,
Army Hammer.
Wait, he saw the headlines. He was like, wait, I'm onto something really quick. Let me find.
Let's get this book on. Yeah, that's.
I haven't seen this one.
I haven't seen it either.
Okay.
I've been looking forward to it. I do enjoy Call Me by Your Name, and I love, I love Call Me by Your Name. I also love the Suspiria remake as well. We talked about it on on our Luca Guadagnino episode in the past. So I definitely enjoy his work, and I'm excited to see this movie. I still have to go see it. But I do gotta say though, shout out to Luca. One of his early movies, the one starring Cate Blanchett, is on Mubi, which I did watch recently. And I'm shouting out Mubi because Mubi is also the place where I watched Decision to Leave. And that is like, to me, that's the new Criterion collection. Like, to me, that has the best, like, No, not Criterion, but you know how Criterion had that like streaming service for a good minute?
Criterion Channel.
Yeah.
Criterion Channel, yeah. I think Mubi is like that spot. Mubi has so many good movies on there. If y'all don't have Mubi, get on
How
Mubi.
much is it?
I think it's $7.99 a month.
That's not bad at all.
That's not bad. I'm on I was on a 7-day free trial when I watched Decision to Leave, but
Gotcha.
I did pay for it because I was like, man, there's too many good picks on here.
Before we get to our honorable mentions, it's kind of a fascinating conversation that I might be speaking for myself, but I think I saw half these movies on streaming or at home versus the other half in theaters. And it's so interesting to me on a personal level, at least for me, the ones I enjoyed the most, at least I think, are the ones that I saw in theaters. I saw Decision to Leave in theaters. I saw Woman King in theaters, Everything in theaters. And then my top two I saw in theaters as well, including The Way of Water. But how are you guys feeling about this new generation or this new wave that we're currently living in, where some of our favorite movies of the year, or some of our most anticipated movies of the year, are movies that we're watching on Netflix or on Mubi or on streaming? How do you guys feel about that?
I mean, yeah. Sorry, you go.
I think well, like looking at my list, I actually did see almost all of these in theaters, with the exception of Cha Cha Real Smooth, and that is actually the only one. So I think that
Really?
actually tells a lot, honestly.
Wow.
Just because I have gone to the theater a bunch over the last year. I really do go at least once a week, most of the time like twice, maybe even 3 times. But to me, when I'm watching a film at home, and I know we've talked about this a lot, but I don't feel like I have the same just the same attention span, and it has nothing to do with, you know, the fact that I'm home and I'm doing other stuff. I just don't think it hits the same. I think it's that atmosphere of being in a theater where you're like just completely locked in and you can lose yourself in a film. Because even like my number one, I love, and I'll get to it, I love it with all my heart. I think if I didn't see it in a theater, I don't know if I'd feel the exact same way about it.
Yeah, that's probably true about my number one as well. RB3, how are you feeling about this streaming era?
Yeah, I mean, you know, well, I'm pro streaming. I'm pro streaming everything. I think honestly, I did see a lot of my top 10 in the theater as well. The only one that I didn't see in theaters were Intergalactic and RRR. And also Decision to Leave as well. I didn't see Decision to Leave in theaters. But I think that to me, like the rest of them I saw in theaters, I enjoyed in theaters, but I also enjoy the fact that I was able to go home and watch Glass Onion like 2 weeks after I saw it in theaters. I think that made me love it more. I think the fact that I saw Nope, you know, spoiler alert for maybe later in my list, that I saw Nope soon after it came out on Peacock, that helped me out with like loving it too as well. Like, you know, with and so yeah, I think like having the option, same thing with Barbarian coming out on HBO Max soon after, it really helped me get a more love and appreciation for a movie. Seeing it in theaters, but also getting to re-love it and experience it at home helps. And then it's funny too, it's like speaking on like the difference of like attention span, like you're talking about, Sabrina, like with Decision to Leave and RRR, like both foreign films, but like I had the complete opposite like thing where like Decision to Leave, I really had to like sit down and focus and be like, all right, I have to concentrate, like let me just do this. Whereas RRR was like the first 10 minutes just kind of like sucks you in. You're just like, okay, like I'm in for the ride. Like you'll just chill back and like watch it easy. But yeah, with streaming, it definitely makes that a little bit of a difference, you know?
Yeah, I obviously want to get to our top two. I kind of feel like something has come upon me right now. This is like me in church. Something has come upon me. But RB3, I don't want to spoil it, man, but I kind of feel like we have the same top two.
Really?
I'm looking at my top two right now and I'm like, wait a minute, RB3 hasn't said these two. And we both reviewed these two.
Yeah. I mean, I
should
think
we spoil it? I mean, we gotta say our honorable mentions first. Let's do our honorable mentions. My honorable mention is the only honorable mention I have. Avatar: The Way of Water. I forgot. Sorry. White Noise is weird and it's insane, but I kind of enjoyed it. So shout out White Noise. That's my only honorable mention. RB3.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know. I feel like we might not have the same top two. You know what I mean?
Really? Oh, okay.
Yeah. I think you might have said one of my top two like a little bit earlier.
Okay.
But I mean, if we're shouting out honorable mentions, I'm gonna shout out Bardo on Netflix. Yeah. Shout out to my I meant to pull up her name like before time, freak. But shout out my T. She used to be my TA at USC for one of my film classes. Her name is
Cool.
Carla. Her name's Carla. Her first name's Carla. Well, I'll figure out her
Okay.
full name, put in the description. But she's the executive producer of Bardo, which is so
Ooh.
dope. She's literally like 27 and she's like already executive producing. Like,
Is she Mexican?
yeah, she is. Yeah, she's from Mexico. Yeah, she's from Mexico. Like she was. Yeah. Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio. Shout out to that one as well.
Yeah.
Big shout out to that.
I was like,
Bodies on my honorable mentions. The Fablemans unfortunately didn't make it. The Batman, super close to making it. That was right there at the top 10. Ambulance, Michael Bay back in top form. The Well, Brendan Fraser, Darren Aronofsky. I already shouted out Kimmy, Steven Soderbergh, and those are my honorable mentions.
It's a lot of honorable mentions. Sabrina.
I have a lot too. I'm not even gonna lie. And there's so many that I had to cut from the honorable mentions. I have The Menu, Marcel the Shell, The Batman, Babylon, Glass Onion, White Noise, Bodies, Sonic the Hedgehog 2, of course, and Barbarian.
That's amazing. Shout out Sonic. We both had White Noise. Shout out to that.
Yes.
I know RB3, you had thoughts on one of those movies that Sabrina named.
Which one?
Was it Babylon?
Babylon?
Oh yeah, no, I'm sorry. Yeah, I can't. Yeah, that was not for me.
All right, I'm going on a limb, RB3. I'm gonna say my top two, just because I have faith in our Lord and Savior. He's gonna catch me when I jump. My top two, and surprisingly enough, if I'm being real, and obviously for our listeners watching, y'all know me, I usually try to go against the grain and pick films that are kind of weird, kind of bizarre. I've picked anime films as my number 1 and 2 in the past. I've picked horror films, Hereditary, Get Out have been my number ones in the past. Marriage Story was my number 1, 2019, I think, 2018, whatever that was. I try to go against the grain. I swear, I tried. But I picked the two films that are kind of the biggest spectacle films of the year for me and are the ones that stuck with me the most. And I'm just being honest. And I know a lot of people didn't like this movie or these two movies, and I did. My number 2 is Wakanda Forever. My number 1 is Nope. These are the two. Am I right? RB3?
Well, we have the same number 1. We definitely have the same number 1 for sure. Yeah, definitely.
So Nope is my number 1 movie of the year. Wakanda Forever, I guess if you don't have it on your list. I love this movie. It's the only movie I went back and rewatched in theaters 3 times this year. And I only do that for movies that kind of stuck with me and I have to see again. And it generated some sort of emotion, a part of me. I took my mom to see this movie, which is very rare. I usually don't take my mom to see anything unless it's Star Wars. That's how much I enjoyed the film. That's how much it stuck with me. The themes, the messages. I liked it better than the first Black Panther, even though I really love the first one and I really do feel like it's classic. But I really love this movie. And that is why it's my number 2. I guess it's not your number 2, RB3. What's your number 2?
Well, I mean, my number two personally is Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
We haven't named
mentioned it. Yeah, we mentioned it. You mentioned it earlier in the list. To me, that to me is one of the best movies I've seen in a long time. The Daniels have been like slowly building to this point since Swiss Army Man, which is another film that made my 2016 best of the year list. But in a year and in a world where we have so many multiverse, reality jumping superhero movies, somehow the Russo brothers and the Daniels and A24 teamed up to make the best one, right? Like, isn't it weird that the Russo brothers like really produced this movie too? So it kind of
they're gonna get the Oscar if they win Best Picture.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like,
Damn.
Yeah, exactly. It's weird. It's like so weird that the Avengers Endgame guys like did
Infinity
this,
War,
but it's the art of producing, but also the art of the direction, with the Daniels having a very precise vision, with telling every single universe and every single storyline, having a distinct message, a distinct theme. Every performance, every edit was meaningful, purposeful, and precise. And in my opinion, this made dang near a perfect movie. And I think that's the reason why it's such a huge box office and commercial success. It's the highest grossing A24 movie, and it's one of the highest rated first cut videos as well.
Sabrina, you're number 2.
My number 2 is also Everything Everywhere All at Once. For literally every single thing RB3 said, I think you said that so eloquently. With that, it is really interesting how the Daniels are able to take something that is so heart-wrenching, heartbreaking, like funny, all of these things together, and like just make it as unique as it is. I feel like there's never been a film like this, and there never will be ever again. This is something that is genuinely lightning in a bottle. I also think it's near perfect. It does not take itself so seriously, even though it is dealing with all these heavy themes, of course, being like, you know, first generation American, or like anything like that, like, you know, queer issues, all of this kind of stuff, and how it is dealt with, especially in a situation like that. It's honestly like, you know, we're like the A24 Avengers, and A24 came out absolutely swinging this year. I mean, I think I have like 3 on my list. But I think this is one of A24's best years yet, honestly. And this, when I look back at like 2022, even more so than my number one, this is going to be the film that defined that year.
Yeah, it's so interesting how this movie just blew up out of nowhere. I remember film Twitter jumping on this movie right when it was coming out and just going nuts for it. And then obviously we saw it and we reviewed it once we got the chance to. And it elevated itself so much to the point of like it might win Best Picture. We don't know.
Yeah.
But the time you're watching it, maybe it already has. But it has been that kind of elevated art form. It's interesting because I don't want to overlook where I feel like a lot of people who enjoy this movie are kind of like film bros. And shout out to the film bros out there. I love y'all. But I still feel like at the heart of this movie, it's still about immigration. It's still about cultural identity. It's still about themes that I really felt in this movie as I was watching it, as far as cultural identity being passed down from generation to generation, including that pressure of cultural identity being passed down in tradition. So I feel like that Chinese Asian aspect of it is so special and so unique, obviously with the martial arts, but also with the themes that are playing throughout first generation immigration, your children being accepting this responsibility of taking on your traditions, but at the same time trying to adapt within their own, with the American identity as well. So beautiful film. Shout out to them. If they win the Oscar, all the roosters raising their Oscar. Thank you, Thanos. It's so weird. Yeah. But either way, I guess that takes me to my number one. My number one film of the year is Nope. It's the movie that really just impacted me the most. It shook me to my core as I watched it in theaters. I remember I watched this on opening night in my seat, just freaking the F out, because that's how visceral it was. It's probably the most visceral movie I've ever seen because of the way that Jordan Peele builds up the terror within the movie, and then at the same time builds up the characters within the movie that you don't want to experience that same terror, right? Where throughout the film, you meet Jean Jacket, and the last thing you want is Keke Palmer's character or OJ's character, which is Daniel Kaluuya, to die in that horrific kind of manner. But the way they're able to balance the ideas of film, of spectacle, of belief, of the unbelievable, of being represented in your culture, if that makes sense, where the idea that these two brother and sisters who are from the family that created the first movies and don't get that recognition and still have to struggle to get their horses out there and to get their career out there are the same ones who are bringing in a new generation of extraterrestrial life form inside a visual representation. That's another way to view cinema, to view film. It goes hand in hand with the unbelievable and with the advanced or the technologically superior. So the identity of reclaiming your power within these stories and within this world that we live in when it comes to art and when it comes to media is something that was so powerful to me. That's why it's my number one. Number three.
I mean, yeah, just like you said, everything there is, it's also my number one of the year too. Nope. And yeah, I mean, you touched on it like pretty perfectly. I mean, with the media interpretations and how Jordan Peele really took time to shine a mirror, to Hollywood and give it like that reflection of what spectacle actually means, what being popular, actually being poppin' actually means. What there's like been so many like self-referential movies this year, like The Fablemans, Bardo, Babylon. I mean, the list is endless. Chippendale, but this movie directly addresses the spectacle in the most creative ways than I feel like any of these other movies, right? The fact that the alien, when he starts to unravel himself, he takes the shape of like the old-timey camera. The fact that we have a Gordy, the human, the animal who's like a reflection of animal exploitation, of basically human exploitation, what the film industry is all about, and the point that drives a lot of people crazy, child actors. The cinematographer, how he's always chasing that last perfect shot, the golden hour, like all these themes are just so perfectly integrated into a sci-fi horror movie that also just has the most likable characters. Like you touched on it before. Daniel Kaluuya's OJ, like you really just want to see dude win the entire time, because he's just silent, pure intentions. All he cares about is the legacy of his family, the legacy of his farm, the legacy of his horses. Keke Palmer is like insanely charismatic. She's always been that girl. This movie truly let her shine as well. Again, I've been a big fan of Keke Palmer since True Jackson VP, but that's just me.
That's right. Aquila and the Bee.
Aquila and the Bee, all the way back. Our friend of the show, Brendan Pereira, he made Fry's Electronics cool again. So we gotta shout that out too. And it's also just, again, another like self-reflection of the Instagram popping thing. Like how many times have people gone to like Fry's or Best Buy trying to get like that equipment, trying to chase that Oprah shot, or even in their personal lives to get like filming or selfie equipment. So it's just, it works on so many levels. I talk about it extensively on this. We talk about it extensively on this channel. I was on the Rotten Tomatoes podcast with Nikki, and when we broke down a lot more of the themes is there as well. Also, the fact that Universal put a big campaign behind this and like invited me and Dorian to a lot of those events like at Universal, and like actually got to take a tour of the thing that they built at Universal Studios. That's
Jupiter's Claim.
Jupe's Claim, yeah, Jupiter's Claim, yeah. That the fact that that's still there too is just dope. I love it, man. Shout out Nope, man. Jordan Peele is just to me personally, like everybody says Get Out's their favorite. To me personally, this might be my favorite Jordan Peele movie.
Interesting. Did we share Get Out as number one when that came out? Or did you have another number one?
I think I might have had number one. I think I might have had another number one that year. I think I might have had another.
So I was gonna.
I think it was like number two for me, and then it was like number one for you.
Okay. Because Get Out was my number one that year, and then we shared a number one, Sabrina, with Marriage Story. I remember that.
Yeah, we did.
Mm-hmm. So now we share a number one, RB3.
Yeah, we share number one. Me and Sabrina share number two. So I'm curious.
There you go. We share number two.
Is.
What is your number one, Sabrina?
Well, I even just like on Nope, because I know I had Nope much lower on my list of number 7. And honestly, I feel like it's just any given day, it continues to climb higher and higher. Every single rewatch, I love it more and more. From the first moment it finished, like what a fantastic ensemble of actors and characters that Jordan Peele crafted for this story. Every single person just adds so much. Even just talking about the idea of like the ensembles from this year, Everything Everywhere All at Once, Nope, and like Banshees and a bunch of countless other films, just absolutely incredible. So I stand by y'all having Nope at 1 because I agree. But my number 1 is After Sun, directed by Charlotte Wells, another A24 movie. So actually I have like 4 A24 movies on this list. But After Sun is directed by Charlotte, like I mentioned. This is their directorial debut, and what a way to just start your film career. Starring Paul Mescal, of course, and this is his first feature film as a lead, and of course nominated for an Oscar just recently. So to have him get like nominated for an Emmy with Normal People, which was his first show, and then first film Oscar for this, just absolutely insane. But I think with this one in particular, honestly, I get like choked up thinking about it. I keep coming across a few scenes on Twitter just throughout the day. And there have been countless times where I've literally cried just from watching a 2-minute scene with absolutely no dialogue, just under pressure playing in the background. And I feel like that scene is cemented as my favorite thing that I've seen over the last 5+ years, maybe. And I don't know how another film is going to top this, honestly. because with this film, Charlotte is diving into kind of the idea of nostalgia and taking it apart through like adolescent eyes of like a young woman. We get to see this vacation she takes with her dad, and I knew nothing going into this film, and I really don't want to spoil too much at all. And for most of the runtime, we think it's just that it's a sweet vacation. We are learning so much about these characters just through their interaction. We are feeling their love. It is so palpable through the screen. But then slowly, once you hit a certain point in the film, it really shifts. And then the undertone turns to like grief, anger, looking back and wondering what went wrong and what could have been done to possibly fix it. And also that idea of having your children be an extension of yourself that you leave on this earth. So I know we've talked about that quite a bit, especially, you know, with something like Banshees, or when anybody talks about the idea of art and the idea of humans' impact on the world. I think this film is a good example of that, because even if, you know, I've heard my friends like who have kids say like, if I haven't done anything right in this world, like I know this is the one thing that I did for myself, is like raising this person. And it is so weird to think about like a young father, especially with myself. My mom was 19 when she had me. My dad was like 20. So both of them kind of grew up with me. And so that's why the interactions between Paul Mescal and his daughter in the film, Frankie, I believe her name is, the actress, it really just resonates with me on that level. Like I said, that under pressure scene, I can't even think about it right now because it gets me so emotional. But this is a film that has literally haunted me since the second I saw it in a theater. I think I saw it like 4 months ago, and I cannot wait to rewatch it. I'm waiting for it to come on Movie. I know it like hit in the UK, but yeah, this is probably the thing I will recommend to every single person if they want to just take a minute to cry and just reflect.
It's funny because this is the movie that I was gonna watch like one more movie right before I made my list, and this was the one movie that I was like, I'm gonna watch this one before I make my list, and I didn't.
No.
But now I will. Obviously, I was gonna watch it anyways, but it was one of those things where like it was on a time crunch. But I really wanted to see this one because it's the one that sounded the most interesting to me over all the other ones that were recommended to me, like Banshees, for example. I was like, I could wait on Banshees. But this one is one that I definitely want to check out. So now that you mentioned it as your number one, that's awesome. I'm definitely curious to check it out.
Yeah, whenever Sabrina sneaks in here with these like number one picks that nobody's heard of, it's always a treasure. You know what I mean? It's always a treasure. Because I definitely watched The Worst Person on Earth, which was also on my honorable mention for this year.
Oh, that's right.
So
Yes.
that would have also been in my top 10 list of this year, but I didn't know if to categorize it as a 2022 movie, a 2021 movie. You know what I mean? Because I saw it in 2022, but then it came out 2021, won the Oscars. I don't know, but I'm saying all that to say you usually pick like when there's one that I haven't heard of or I haven't seen. I mean, I've heard of this movie, but I haven't seen it. But when it's one of those, it's usually some super fire. So
Yeah, I like our lists. I think they're different enough that we can have some variety in it. And I think they're similar enough to where we can feel encouraged by each other, that we have the same taste.
Yeah,
But
it's all
and
excellent
also,
taste.
yeah, and it's also so cool to honestly see something like Avatar or even Wakanda be so high on your list, Andre. So
Yeah,
like,
I was going to mention that because I feel like I put it so freaking high that a lot of people are kind of side eyeing me right now. But I don't really care though, because I feel like I'm just being real to myself, and I feel like that story I saw, the way they handled Chadwick Boseman's death, the direction of Ryan Coogler, Letitia Wright's performance, Tenoch Huerta's performance, the identity involved within the Tulucan people is just, it just hit different. It just, everything felt like this. I'm watching Spider-Man 2, right? That's what it felt like. And a lot of people like look back at it now and they're like, damn, Spider-Man 2 might be the best superhero movie ever. I felt like I was kind of in the theater watching it, right? Where I felt like that same way, where I'm watching a movie that kind of goes beyond the genre of superhero film. So I love Wakanda Forever.
I feel that. I mean, I love it too. It was also my like top of my honorable mentions. I don't know if I felt like in good conscience to put Nope, Avatar, and what was the other one I put on here? It was like, yo, I put the
big
Nope
movies.
and The Woman King. I'm like, yo, I literally put I put The Woman King, Avatar and this, and nope, it would have been too much. Like, yeah, it would have been too much of like it would have been too many big movies, and also like, yeah, I don't know. I love them all. Like, it's just like I wanted to represent. I also wanted to just show love to, other movies I love too, like Decision to Leave and stuff. So yeah, I just had to make a choice of like, I love Wakanda and I want to put it on the list, but I just needed to make room for at least like one or two other movies.
I'm the same exact way. I'm always like, I'd rather put the small indie movie up higher and then put some other ones on there and maybe not even include it. But this year I was like, I didn't see a lot of movies and I just want to be honest with myself.
Yeah. Nah.
Instead of trying to force like some movie I checked out on some streaming service and put it super high because a lot of people haven't seen it. So
I mean, it really is true because like my top three with After Sun, Everything Everywhere All at Once, and Bones and All are like cemented. But the other ones, honestly, it really just depends on the day to see like what I would prefer over the other. I think any given day, Nope could easily be my number four. But when we started all of this, Andres, you said this is an interesting year for film. I want to kind of toss it over to RB3 just because I want to get that scope. I know you do see a lot of movies, RB3. Overall, how was this year in film for you?
I mean, I liked this year movies. I mean, I had a lot of time. I even had like more honorable mentions that I could have went on with because I just found a lot of joy in some of these movies. I mean, there are some movies that the Oscar movies I don't like at all. Like none of the Oscar movies like I don't like. So except for honestly Everything Everywhere and Avatar, those are the only two, and Fablemans. But beyond that, I don't really like any of the other Oscar movies. But I will say though, it's funny. I saw today a TikTok of somebody doing like a little Tenet parody. Somebody doing like a little Tenet, like I guess like a little flip or something on TikTok. And I thought, yo, I love this year in movies, but there definitely wasn't like a Tenet. Like there definitely wasn't like a mind blowing, like something super trippy, like something to really like get me like spooling over like Everything Everywhere and Nope were like definitely the closest to that in terms of like, but I mean, they're not confusing.
They're
like
both
you don't need
better
to like,
than Tenet.
they're better than Tenet, yeah, but there's nothing like confusing or like nothing that like really breaks my mind. You know, mind bending. I think mind bending is the word. Like I think there's nothing like actually something that I kind of have to like work out a math equation. Whereas I think in other years, like there might have been, maybe one or two movies like that I personally love and I personally would have shouted out. But I love this year movies personally. I thought it was great movies. I all my top 10 list was like, I felt very happy about it. And I was gonna, if I could have did a top 15, I would have did a top 15 and felt like strongly about those too. But
same. That's why I liked when you use the word interesting, Andres, because I think our lists kind of show that too. There's such diversity in terms of genre, filmmakers, a lot of new filmmakers, interesting filmmakers on these lists. Then again, what you would kind of see reflective in like the best picture lineup for the Oscars. Because even something like, again, Babylon, Fablemans, something like that, those are so low on my list, especially something like the Fablemans, that I think like something like Cha Cha Real Smooth or After Sun stands out. And then you guys mentioning Decision to Leave. It's just really cool to hear that variety.
Yeah, it's really interesting when I look at my list and I think about foreign films, right? We're watching Decision to Leave in theaters and then watching Argentina 1985, watching those two movies specifically because they're live action, but the way that filmmaking is taken so seriously. Also, you mentioned Bardo RB3. I know that's another good example of interesting filmmaking that's foreign, right? Where Decision to Leave, damn, homie puts his everything into that movie. Those cross cuts, those edits, those transitions. Like, oh my God. I was like, damn, like homies in America do not give it that much. Compared to these Korean homies who are really like pushing the envelope and really doing some interesting things. And that's why I always put anime films in my list. I mean, I know I'll never get you guys into it, but one of these days,
I liked Belle. I watched Belle.
Did you watch Belle?
Yeah, I enjoyed that movie. It was great.
Yeah, I was gonna say that you could watch Belle on HBO Max and check it out. That's a great example of what my number one was last year. But either way, you could check out this one that I named Inu-Oh as well, RB3, if you like anime and animation, because I do feel like we should give credit to quality films, regardless of the medium, regardless of whatever it is. Like Guillermo del Toro said, animation is cinema. And I will always put anime films in the same breath as I put Decision to Leave or Nope or Wakanda Forever. That's just me. I'm always going to do that. But let's go 10 through 1 for our list. I don't know if this is the one you want to break off, RB3. I don't know. You want to do like a little break off thing?
Let's do that.
So let's pretend we're doing a break off thing. But to finally close out the episode, my top 10 films of 2022. At number 10, I have Intergalactic. At number 9, I have Emily the Criminal. At number 8, I have Glass Onion. At number 7, I have The Woman King. At number 6, I have Decision to Leave. At number 5, I have Everything Everywhere All at Once. At number 4, I have Argentina 1985. At number 3, I have Inu-Oh. At number 2, I have Wakanda Forever. And at number 1, I have Nope.
Yeah, for my top 10, for number 10, I got Intergalactic. Number 9, I got Decision to Leave. Number 8, I got The Woman King. Number 7, I got Breaking. Number 6, I got Barbarian. Number 5, I got Glass Onion and Knives Out Mystery. Number 4, I got RRR. Number 3, I got Avatar: The Way of Water. Number 2, I got Everything Everywhere All at Once. And number 1, I got Nope.
Hell yeah. My top 10. At number 10, I have Wakanda Forever. Number 9, X. 8, Tar. 7, Nope. 6, Pearl. 5, Cha Cha Real Smooth. 4, The Banshees of Inisherin. 3, Bones and All. 2, Everything Everywhere All at Once. And number 1 is After Sun.
Awesome. Oh, thank you guys so much for doing this. I appreciate it. Thank you guys for watching or listening to this episode. We appreciate you guys as well. You can check me out at Squad Leader Ace and check us out at First Cut TMO. RB3, where can everyone find you?
You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Director RB3 and stream timestamp on First Cut. Stream timestamp on Amazon Prime Video.
Sabrina.
You can follow me on Twitter and TikTok at Sabrina on Film and Instagram at Sabrina X Monica.
And then obviously, I forgot to mention our TikTok. Check us out on TikTok at First Cut TMO as well. But either way, guys, let us know in the comments down below. What is your top 10 films? I want to see your list. Put them in the comments. I don't care. If it takes up a lot of space, I will go through each and every one of them and check it out because we do appreciate you guys. Like and subscribe if you appreciated this conversation and this content. So either way, guys, for the First Cut crew, we're going to be peacing out. So deuces.